I wanted to follow up on the first video regarding positioning with a second video that focuses on positioning during set pieces. That is, times that we're restarting the play from a stop, whether that's from a whistle or from a kickoff. And so we're gonna take a look at some basic positioning in those instances, because as the game flows, players are going to be they're going to be all over the field based on where the ball is, where their opponents are, where the space opens up. But on set pieces, on specific restarts, there are patterns that are going to really be followed just about every time. So let's start with a kickoff. So here we've got our basic formation. We've got the goalie, we've got the two defenders, the three midfielders, and the forward. So let's say our team's got a kickoff. Every time we have a kickoff, the ball starts right there in the middle, the forward's going to take the kick. We don't need the midfielders back so deep, so we might want to have the midfielders up here and up here. You might want to have the center midfielder a little bit closer to the center. But we can go ahead and push up the defense because we don't need to drop back and defend. The ball's already at halfway. So when there's a kickoff, every single kickoff I want to start in this fashion. The forward is going to come to the ball, and the plan is just simply to pass it back to the central midfielder. And the reason why is when the central midfielder has the ball, he has a lot of options around him, and he can react to what's available. The forward might find an opening here or there, or maybe even straight up the field, depending on what the defense does. One of the midfielders may be open. Perhaps the defense is only pressuring from this side, then he'll see, well, let me swing the ball out to the left midfielder. He's open. And this pass is very simple on the kickoff. The forward is going to make a simple pass with his instep back to the center midfielder. So no back heels, nothing fancy. It's not a trick play. It's just a simple pass to the feet of the central midfielder so that we can start the attack. He's got options. The forward, the midfielders can start to move and get open, and so he can find which of these three options is the best option for him. And then let's say we get a corner kick. Attacking this goal, we win a corner on the left side of the field. So here's basic positioning. The goalie's mostly going to stay at home. He doesn't really need to come high up the field. And the defenders, however, can move pretty far up. And part of this is depending on how the other team, how they set up. But I want the defenders to move up to midfield, and you'll see they're still very tight to the center. We don't have the left defender over here and the right defender over here, because that would be that positioning would lend itself to a counterattack by the other team straight down the middle of the field. So yes, they're the left defender and the right defender, but they can stay central. So let's say that the left midfielder is over here getting ready to take the corner kick. Really, I want the forward and the other two midfielders to be in this general area. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the left midfielder takes the corner kicks on his side and the right midfielder takes the corner kicks on his side. So the way we can think about it is we've got four players that have more attacking responsibilities, the forward and the three midfielders. One of those players will be taking the corner kick. The other three will generally be here. So in this example, the forward's just about on the penalty spot, and the other midfielder is near him, and then there's another midfielder who's right behind. And so in our league, for these age age players. We don't head the ball in the league, which does make a corner kick less of an offensive threat than it would be in older leagues and in the professional game. A corner kick is a very good scoring opportunity. It's less so when you can't head the ball, because we've got defenders who are going to be in the way, and we've got to clear those defenders and make the pass through those defenders to the attacking players who can't jump up above the defenders and head the ball. So the plan's going to be the corner kick taker is going to play the ball into this area, and so I really want the other attacking players to be in and around this area to attack the ball and take a shot on goal. Now, if all the defending players are back in the 18-yard box, then we could even have some of one of the defenders maybe cheat up a little bit further, because if the other team is retreated that deep, we don't really need a big gap here, and so we might have one of the defenders move up. If, on the other hand, the forward for the opposing team stays up high or is maybe hanging out over here, we're going to want to keep an eye on him. And maybe, so if their forward is over here, one of the defenders would be watching him, the other defender would stay in the middle. Or if the other forward is staying central, then maybe both the defenders are going to stay near him to keep an eye on him. And so this will be the basic positioning for a corner. One corner kick taker, the other midfielders or forward are in and around the middle of the penalty area so that the ball can be played out here. Of course, you don't want to play the ball straight down the line because the goalie is going to be able to reach that easily. So I want the other attacking players to be here. A similar attacking play, even though you might not think this is a set piece, is a throw-in. So let's say we've got a throw-in on this side of the field. One thing I do want to try to do pretty regularly is to have the outside midfielders take the throw-ins on their side of the field. No, that's something that they can be more flexible with as they get older, and it's not something that needs to be rigidly followed all the time. But I think starting out, helping them learn their positions, this will be helpful for them to realize the left midfielder in this circumstance is going to be wide to take the throw-in, and so what you would probably want to have here is the forward, who's going to be the highest player, is going to give the option to throw the ball towards the goal. Maybe that's down the line, particularly if the ball is back here, then the forward's going to want to come down the line. The central midfielder is going to give an option more in the center of the field. The defense might be more on that side, shaded to that side. The opposite side midfielder can really have a couple options. If the middle is crowded, then there's no need for that other wide midfielder to get in the middle and crowd it and just stand by 2 or 3 defenders. And so it may be a better idea to stay wide. But one thing that this other wide midfielder won't do is there's no need for him to come over here, because that crowds the space for the forward and the center midfielder. And when the ball goes to them, there's no option, or it reduces the option. Whereas if the wide midfielder stayed over here, when the throw-in comes to the forward may have an option to pass to him if he's stayed wider. Whereas if the midfielder comes over here, then you're just sort of taking up the same sort of option where the forward could maybe have just passed it back to that midfielder or to the throw-in taker who's now stepped onto the field. And so there'd be no need to crowd the play in that way. So this other wide midfielder is going to need to stay open, stay wider to find some space to receive a pass. The other basic set piece that we need to talk about is goal kicks. So there'll be a lot of goal kicks every game. That's a typical pattern of play, and so we need to know what to do. So again, I'm going to just drag the players back to their typical position. That's where it explains where they would be. And let's say we've got a goal kick over here on the right side of the field. What I would like to do is to follow the same pattern of play every time on a goal kick. One of the defenders is going to be taking that goal kick. Whichever defender is not taking the goal kick, and in this circumstance it's the left defender that's not taking it, they are going to stand right there on the penalty spot. And the reason for that is if the pass either is turned over right here to the other team, or if the pass comes across the middle and is turned over, I want to have the other defender in position to be able to stop a quick counter from the other team. Now, of course, what we've stressed with the boys is on goal kicks, they've got the option that they have is sort of the arc of passing that's between straight up the field and to the side. So it's kind of a narrow arc. And so what that means is that the players, the midfielders and the forward, need to position themselves effectively to receive the ball over there. So the wide midfielder on the same side as the kick taker is going to have to go even wider. And so he can have an option out wide to receive. And that may be here, it may be there, but still the main idea is that wide midfielder is giving a wide option. The center midfielder will push over. So yes, they're the center midfielder, but they're not stuck in the middle of the field the entire time. They need to go left and right. In this circumstance, the center midfielder is really going to need to shift over to the side of the goal kick taker. And the wide midfielder on the opposite side of the kick taker may want to pinch in a little bit more narrow because we're not in this league, we're not likely to have a whole lot of players that are going to be clearing it 3/4 of the way down the field off of a goal kick. And goal kicks often do turn into counterattacks for the other team. And so by pinching in a little bit, the wide midfielder can be ready to help out on defense if it's needed, or if we get the ball through, is ready to run up the field, whether that's straight up the field or maybe a little bit wider, trying to find an opening. Now the forward is going to have to do maybe the most drastic change of any of the other positions. Is yes, you're the forward, you're the only forward, and that means you're going to have to shift far to this side of the field. Because again, I'm looking for the kick taker to either come straight up the field or to the side. And so in this area is the most likely place that the forward's going to win the ball. And it's also a helpful area that if the ball is played to the wide midfielder, you're close enough to that midfielder to give them an option to pass. If the forward had stayed in the middle, then the wide midfielder is going to have a difficult time making that pass. But if the forwards has shifted over to their side of the field, then the wide midfielder can play a ball to them to run onto as we go up the field. So again, this is the basic setup for taking a goal kick. We've got the goal kick taker as one of the defenders. The goalkeeper is going to stay at home in front of the goal. The other defender is on the penalty spot to guard against any turnovers or counterattacks by the other team. The center midfielder is going to shift slightly to this side of the field. the wide midfielder is going to come fairly wide, maybe even hugging the sideline on this side of the ball to give the goal kick taker an option. And the forward is going to come from out of the center, shift over to the side so that the ball can either be played straight up or to the side. And again, these are patterns of play that are going to come, they're going to happen over and over during a game. At this point in the boys' soccer education, it's probably good for them to learn some rigid definitions so that they can more effectively learn how to be flexible with those once they're older. And so if they learn some sort of rigid role responsibilities and positioning do's and don'ts, then as they get older and they start playing in a more fluid system where they learn how to swap with other players, they understand what it really means to take another player's responsibility. They'll understand that when a defender comes up and makes a run on the outside, what it means for that midfielder to drop back and cover for them, because they'll understand both roles, what's required of them. And so the ultimate goal is, as they learn how to play, to be more flexible in their positioning, to understand the requirements and the responsibilities of every player throughout the field. But the way to get them there, I think, is to start off with a smaller responsibility that's more easily defined, and they'll grow from there. I hope this is helpful. Thanks.